I would definitely not buy bus shelter ads. That's one thing I would not do,
Why?
unless I'm
Why?
really
Well, come on,
big.
man. Like everybody who drives by that bus shelter is
They
gonna
hire
see
you
you
right
there.
away.
Yeah.
Welcome to another episode of Hustle and Grit. My name is Omar, and I have my co-host with me, Harris, joining me. We have a very exciting episode for you guys today.
Yeah.
Harris, what are we talking about?
I don't know. We'll see where the conversation brings us. But I know that we have one thing on our agenda. It's that legislation change, Bill-145, and I think it affects the entire industry, but nobody more so than realtors. And so I think that's I think the biggest thing that I really want to kind of focus in our conversation. I know that you know a lot about it, and I've done some readings, but I would like to kind of dive into it with you to see where it takes us.
Yeah, I think it's Bill 145 is a huge deal, and I find that a lot of the conversations right now have been revolving around PRECs, and even that without much depth. And Bill 145 had such a fundamental impact on the real estate profession as a whole, and it's not really covered as much as it should be because the purpose of this bill was really to reshape the future of the profession in Canada. So I think it is a big deal, and this podcast, today's episode, should be very helpful to the realtors out there listening.
All right, so just to jump right in, um, what got you interested in for yourself looking into PRECs? Because I know that as a practice, there's a lot of things that we can look into. But what got you kind of personally vested in this piece of legislation?
I think it's a few things. There's two sides to it. One side is all of the benefits associated with a PREC. The other side is, and in the words used by the legislators themselves too, it was really bringing up the legislative framework for realtors up to par where it should be, because realtors bring a high level of service that requires them to have the benefits associated with that service, and the benefits a professional corporation were received by doctors, lawyers, engineers, dentists for many years, and it was about time that realtors received that same kind of benefits that they had not been afforded previously. And the other side of that was just all the benefits associated with a PREC, and there's so many. The list is endless, and I think it can really change the game for a lot of realtors. It can really fundamentally change their practice and their futures.
Yeah, so then I think um, just to start off, then, what do you think is like for a realtor, if you had to kind of nail the biggest reason why they should be um, getting a PREC, what do you think that would be? Like, what's their like no brainer? This is it. I gotta go get myself a PREC tonight.
Honestly, that's a hard question. I think it's a hard question. I think there's two sides to it. I think at
Yeah,
the end of the day, I guess every benefit can be boiled down to increasing your net worth. So if your goal is I want to build my net worth, I want to increase my wealth, then a PREC is right for you. And that breaks down in many ways. It's the wealth that you accumulate. How do you protect that wealth?
yeah,
And the money that you earn, how do you minimize the taxes on it? And the money that you earn, how do you maximize the return on it? Right. So how do you maximize the return on investment? And PRECs help you with all three of those different categories. So I think
yeah.
it's pretty broad.
I know that we have a webinar for realtors, and I think we could drop that in the link if they want to register because we go through it in quite some detail. I think it's insightful for anyone who's kind of understanding Bill 145 and how it's going to affect the industry. But
Just to jump in there
yeah,
quickly, if you're not watching this on YouTube and you're listening to this on a podcast, then contact PREC at treadstonelaw.ca if you're interested in the webinar.
yeah. Check out the website. I mean, I think the webinar is completely free. We host it. I don't know how often it's hosted, but check the timings out. We'd love to have you guys. And then we kind of go in detail as to what Bill 145 means for realtors. But one of the things, though, and I'm assuming, I can only assume that a lot of realtors would have this train of thought, because I know that a lot of entrepreneurs, small businesses, they have that where they're kind of like, I don't need a corporation, because you could, as a lawyer, we could go, hey, listen, a corporation is going to provide you limited liability, and the concept of limited liability is like, it's a little unique to people, in that, like, okay, well, if you do something wrong, and I don't mean fraudulent, but let's say you take out a loan and you try to start a business and you can't do it. Now you owe that amount of money. If you have a corporation, you're kind of shielded from it. So a lot of people will say, for example, I don't need a corporation because I've got insurance. I think that's one of the biggest reasons I hear that if somebody tries to sue me for anything, I've got insurance, whether it's personal or limited, it doesn't matter. What is your response to that?
I think there's a number of things. When you have litigation, your insurance does help. Insurance is always important, but at the same time, there's a cap to your protection. So there's that aspect of it. So once you hit that cap, if the person that's suing you has not recovered everything that they wanted to recover, then they're going to pursue your personal assets as well. So when there's any kind of litigation, the goal usually is for the plaintiff's lawyer to sue everyone that they can, right? So they're suing you personally, and then the insurance company is stepping in, but they also understand that there's a cap on this, and if there's significant personal assets that the person owns, then there's room there to recover additional of the damages or whatever they're seeking to recover.
Yeah. So always, I feel like, well, all the other thing is like, I mean, what's a cost benefit analysis? I mean, I feel like if you've got a house on the line, or if you've got a house, why would you want to put it on the line just because you've got insurance, right? What if the insurance fails to pay out for whatever reason, right? And then you're still on the hook for whatever somebody may have sued you for, right? I do feel like also with a corporation, you're able to take a little bit more risk, not unnecessarily, but risk in that you can go and essentially take out a loan, try to put an earnest effort in growing your business without putting everything on the line, and next thing you know it, you're out of a house, or you're in worst case scenario, your entire family. And I mean, if you have kids, that's a lot. So it allows you to kind of limit that, no?
Yeah, insurance is not going to pay for your business loan at the end of the day. So if you take out a big loan and you default on that loan, insurance does not step in and say, we're going to cover this loan. I know there are some types of insurance to help in residential situations with a mortgage, but generally speaking, you're on the line for that loan. And if it's a personal loan, then your personal assets are liable, and the money can be recovered through them.
Yeah. And I also find with a PREC, it's I think a first step to branding yourself outside of, I think, yourself. And I think that if you look at like there's a lot of new real estate startups, and I think the market is kind of getting a little bit on it's getting interesting. There's a lot of new things coming in. You have your traditional brokerage models, you have your sell it yourself type of purple bricks property guys model. But then you also have these new investors coming in like Properly and God knows what. There's a few of them out there where they kind of almost guarantee the sale of your house. And if you don't sell the house, they'll buy it from you. So, and they have like their just access to so much capital. And what all these kind of newer brands are doing is they're not attached to a particular person. So it's not so and so, right? It's not John Doe, the realtor down the street. It's like a brand that they've kind of created. And I feel like a PREC, outside of its just kind of legal, I guess, benefits, it does put the realtors in a mindset of, okay, I need to now have a brand in and around the corporation and not just myself. And I think that's incredibly, incredibly important because it is really setting up the mindset for where the industry is kind of headed.
What are your thoughts on the realtors right now that you see, like the top tier realtors that are, sorry, there was a little technical issue. So you see the top tier realtors that are hitting the, I guess, the highest in each city, $1 billion in sales this year, or numbers like that. A lot of them are branded personally. And then you have these big companies like Properly you mentioned that have recently gotten funded hundreds of millions of dollars in investment because they understand there is definitely a market to move away from that personal branding. Do you think those big personally branded realtors are going to have to shift eventually too, or is that for the 99%, right? The people that are hitting big numbers, but
I don't know. I think if I had to, like I know who you're talking. Like the bigger brands, there's not a lot of them. There's not
like
a
five
lot.
guys maybe,
Yeah.
or not.
But at the same time, it's not like there's only like one of them, they've got a team of like 20, 30, whatever, 40, 50 people. I don't know exactly how much, but they've got like a significant amount of people working for them. And that's how they're reaching those or posting those numbers. And they could say, yeah, $1 billion worth of sales. Now, the other thing is also the market's heated. So prices are going up. So you could sell the same amount of volume, but just the numbers are higher. And so there's that. But I definitely feel that I would feel like they would need to change. I would say that I feel like it's more psychology. Like why would a lot of people would think to themselves, why would I want to work for under someone else's name? And it becomes more like, I want to put my name up there, right? And it's a bit egotistical. You know what I mean? And whereas if you've got like a name, it's something that's not a particular person. When you've got like John Doe Real Estate sold $1 billion, it's still very much, it's coming off as that one person, right? It's not a machine. So it definitely, like, I'm pretty sure top producers there would be like, listen, I want to branch out and start my own name, and I want to be the one with the 1 billion. Where I don't think that's always the case when you have a branded company, because everybody kind of unites for that under that banner, and that banner isn't a person; it's more of an entity or a group. Psychologically, at least, that's what I feel like is the difference. I mean, you don't see any Fortune 500 companies. I guess there are some hidden ones, but like you don't see them any like Facebook or anything like that. That's like really branded after a person anymore.
But yeah, I think you're thinking the future of professional services. So when you look at any professional service, the branding side of it is not usually emphasized as much. You look at law firms; the biggest law firms are people's names,
Yeah.
but people are usually united under that banner because that name is no longer the name anymore. It's just kind of a it's elusive, right? It's Skadden. Who is Skadden, right? Nobody really thinks about who that person is, or whatever other law firm. They're thinking about what it represents and that experience that they're getting.
But
So you
often
think about
enough, these people are dead. So if you're like
yeah,
I mean, you're
yeah,
like Goldman Sachs, that's obviously a name, right?
yeah,
Like J.P. Morgan Chase, like all these, they're after names. Coke Industries, they're all after names. The majority of these people, the ones that are public brands, the ones who are Mercedes, right? They're all dead. The founders are dead, and it's become something bigger than themselves. But and that's the thing, where if you want to leave a legacy where you keep growing, and even after you're kind of gone, you have to create a machine. To create that machine, you need to create a brand where people are kind of really, I want to like be a part of this cause. And for that,
Yeah.
I think you have to.
No. So I think then it becomes an evolution, because you think you look at with our firm, Treadstone Law, we still have that reputation in the market without a name, right? So it's without someone's personal name there. Whereas then you have other firms that use personal names that are able to get that same advantage, but through a different means. The future, I think, is the model that we're using. But with real estate, maybe it's those guys that John Doe, 1 billion in sales, has to stop putting John Doe's face on the everything, right? And it becomes just John Doe. Do you understand what I mean? Detach the person from the name.
Yeah, I maybe
No.
I don't know. Like there's some guys who just use their full name, right? And I feel like that's not gonna last. Maybe you want to put your last name up and turn it into a brand. I'm not sure if that's the way, but I do know that like all companies moving forward, like here's the thing. I mean, I feel like the companies with the name already, they're established. They have that brand, and it's fine. But the newer companies that are coming up, they have to have they have all these kind of new startup names. Part of it, I feel like, is just fostered by the fact that all the domains have been taken, and now they're trying to think of like quirky names so they could just get a .com. But outside of that, like if I were to see two new brands kind of pop up, and one is somebody's last name and the other one's kind of like a word, I think connect to the word more so than the name now, just because I'd be like, all right, this feels startup-y, and you kind of already. I think Silicon Valley has done a really good job to just kind of hold your hand in understanding the brands, and by churning them out, and by churning out so many different industries, that there's a lot less essentially developing a reputation. It already has a reputation by a certain look or feel, by looking similar, not similar, but like something where I associate quality to or trust to. So I think that is something that's big. Whereas somebody's name, I'm going to be a bit wary unless I've heard of it already before, or it's been established a really long time ago.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. So it's not like those realtors can say we were established in 1800 or something,
Yeah.
and and then have that the kind of
Like if I said, okay,
benefit.
if I said like Smith Real Estate established 2021, what are you going to hear?
It's a startup. No, I mean like it's just a solo realtor,
Yeah.
maybe a few people working with him, nothing innovative, just the
It's a
same
dude,
old.
yeah, it's a dude who probably
Yeah,
maybe he's got experience, right?
yeah,
And now he's kind of branching out on his own, but nothing like too special, right? But if it's like, Unicorn Realty or something like that, immediately, even if they don't, I think a lot of people associate, I don't know if it's right or wrong, but they do associate just like, oh, could they be VC backed? How big are these guys? I don't know how big they are, because they could have opened up last year or even a month ago. But if they've got like venture capital backing, these guys are instantly big in my mind. So they've got credibility, which is huge.
and then I think what it does is it builds curiosity. So if you hear Smith Real Estate, is that's all you're hearing, and all you're hearing is whatever name, some branded name, Unicorn Realtor or whatever, unicorns, or I don't know, house castles. Uh, and then you automatically want to know more, right? So you Google the name, then you
Yeah.
look at their website. With Smith Realty, you think, okay, this is going to be one of those template WordPress websites with all the listings and the person's picture, and that's it, right? So you're not even curious to learn more, unless you're actively searching. But even then, it's more nothing unique from that perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, the branding. I think the branding also helps develop characteristics about a business that are detached from the person. Right? When you think of a person, people are flawed. So you're always thinking of the pros and the cons of the person themselves. Okay, Smith might have some good, some bad to him. I gotta assess Smith. But when you're thinking of a startup realty firm, you're thinking about what do they do. You're not necessarily thinking about, okay, what's good and bad, and whether you are thinking about the reviews, but you're automatically trying to define them, right? Whereas with a person, you've already defined them somewhat when you're going in, realtor.
Yeah. Yeah. And
So the point is,
but I
go
also
ahead.
think, like, in terms of pricing, I feel like with a corporation, if you have got a brand, and I don't know, maybe I'm the only one who's feeling this, but when you've got a brand, there's always like an acceptance to the price. You're not necessarily thinking, oh man, like, okay, could I get a deal? Could I get, like, for realtors, it may be like, yo, I want to cash back. You're getting your commission. I want to cash back or something like that, right? I don't think, like, I think slowly people psychologically start, and if you're branded well, they definitely do take themselves out of that and like, oh, this is an organization, right? Like, has anyone ever complained that like Facebook advertising is too expensive, right? Or Google advertising is too expensive? No, because they can't go anywhere to negotiate, right? It's like Google has created like a great brand. Even Tesla's great, right? Tesla, I know there's a lot of Tesla fanboys out there, but I like, in terms of like just production quality, they aren't the best, right? That there's no surprise on that to that. And I don't know if there's any Tesla fanboys listening to this, there's going to be some comments, but
They aren't so bad.
no, I mean, like, from a pure just manufacturing quality, right? They're not the best. Okay, how about that? They might not be the worst. I don't know where they are, right? But they're not the best. But people are just die-hard Tesla fans, man. Like, there is a sense of something, like, I don't know, a piece of themselves that they attach to like this brand, and they're like, yo, I want to like be a part of this. And I feel like with realtors, the first step is like, if you're incorporating, that's the mindset, right? Like, now that you've incorporated, what's your next step? Your next step is to build a freaking brand, right? A brand that like is not about you specifically. It carries on the best, I guess, characteristics about you, but it isn't about you. It's not about John Doe. John could be a great person at finding really great houses, and that's what it is, right? It's like the brand is about getting their clients the best house at the best price, or the fastest, or whatever it is, in the best location, whatever it is, right? Or the best budget, whatever it may be. Those ideals should, I feel like, not be attributed to a person, but they should be attributed to the organization first, and then to the person. And that's like one of the biggest things. And I think that's one of the biggest changes that realtors should be thinking about. Like, I know that, like, if you're working under a brokerage, right, how much leverage do you have to brand yourself? I don't know, right? I'm assuming there's not a lot. Even with the PREC, I think there is going to be some limitations, right? Like, you still may not be able to brand exactly how you want to brand. But
There's
I think
legal loopholes.
In terms of what?
Marketing companies, things of that nature. But I guess with the PREC, that still keeps it kind of detached from that PREC. But
yeah, so I mean, but it's still like you have to work it out with your, like, whoever your brokerage
your
is.
legal team, or
Yeah. I mean, because with the PREC, it's not like you have to have an agreement in place with your brokerage that you can have a PREC, right? So then I'm assuming they would also govern, if they're smart, like what kind of branding you can have. So if you can have your own branding, I think even when you're associated with another brokerage, I think it does a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. One good thing I think about having separate brands is also the ability to kind of differentiate your market too. Because right now, Canada has some of the biggest biggest commissions in the world. I think the U.S., the U.K. are in kind of the biggest economies. And when you have a PREC or when you have a separate brand, you can differentiate. You can have different market segments. You can have maybe your lower tier, lower service oriented price points that are branded under a different brand, right? And you have your higher tier price points branded under a different brand. And then because that takes away the fear that realtors have that look, or any service provider that look, if I offer this much discount to one person, then my entire brand gets damaged and I'm unable to kind of recover that. And then that becomes people kind of devalue my service right away. And that's a fear they have that can be addressed.
Yeah, I think it happens with like a lot of professional services. There's certain like people who want, like nowadays I feel like clients, customers, consumers, they're extremely picky. So everyone wants this bespoke set of services without paying that bespoke price. And so it really kind of turns into segmenting your customers in different like kind of buckets, and some of them want like the really great service, and yeah, definitely you can brand it according to that, and then others who want more budget can definitely then move into more of the, like I think CIBC and Scotiabank have done this, right, where Scotiabank has Scotiabank for like the better service and Tangerine Banking for the garbage service. Not garbage, but like do it yourself, right?
Yeah.
And so same thing with I think CIBC and Simply, right? CIBC is a good service. Simply is like kind of do it yourself.
It's funny because even though they're seen as the lower tier, part of their understanding is that's the future, right? Most people are going to be wanting the less touch points, more digital, more get everything done yourself type of thing.
But I think it really does change the bank a lot. Like, cause like imagine, I think about this. So when we do closings and I have to run to the bank, especially if you hit like a Monday and it's the first of the month, it's going to be the worst time ever, because there's going to be a lot of older citizens who are there to get their books updated, and you're in the line for a very long time, and they don't understand the concept of paying the bills online. And I feel like there's a lot of just, I don't know, it's just convenient to do it from home, and you're not paying, the bank is not paying somebody $20-$30 an hour to punch in numbers if you do it yourself. Now, if you can do it yourself, like Simply in Tangerine, you have to pay it yourself. That's it. And if you want to deposit any funds with the check, you deposit it into the machine, or you can mail it in. But there isn't a teller who's going to look at it right away. It's going to be done during the bank's time. And I think it's great for, okay, if I want an immediacy of my own action versus immediacy of the banking action, if that makes sense. Like if there's some things where I can do myself and I can just get this done right here, right now, right? But there's also like, okay, I don't want to do this, I want to be served. You got both sides. And I think with realtors, so here's my other question. Can you have more than one PREC?
You can have as many as you want.
So if you were a realtor, here's my question. If you're a realtor and you know the market's hot, right? Hold on, wait. I got a better thing.
But I mean, I think I know where you're leading, so I just want to cut you off first. So there wouldn't be a point, I think, to having more than one, because what you're doing with the PREC is you're earning the commission. That's the purpose of that PREC. If you're looking to branch out into more than one brand, then you can have different brands that still earn commission through the same PREC.
Oh.
Right. So for a realtor, it would make sense you have one PREC, and then it does make sense to have more than one corporation, for whatever reason, whether it's investing, separating your assets, moving liability, a million reasons. But PREC, generally speaking, it's a vehicle to earn those commissions and then distribute them or save them accordingly. Another, I guess, I don't see any other reason to get a second one. Even if you have, if you're looking to maximize your small business deductible, then that's not going to happen either, right? They combine it. Yeah. So.
Okay, well, but my question was going to be a little bit different. Let's say you're licensed today. Like this is more like, forget about PREC for a second, okay? So you're licensed today and you got your PREC, right? How would you enter the market today?
What do you mean? Like
Like
me, myself?
yeah, you're a new realtor that just
Okay.
got licensed today. You got your PREC. Hold on, before
Okay.
you get to the PREC part, what type of brokerages would you want to look for when you're joining, and how would you launch your business? How would that first 90 days look like?
Oh man, the first 90 days I'm guessing would be pretty stressful regardless. But the brokerage that I'd be looking for would be a brokerage that's kind of forward looking, well organized, well branded. That would be my biggest thing. That's the only way that I would be able
How
to
would you know if
assess.
they're forward looking?
I think branding is the first way to find out. So I would review their website, look at the head broker, look at his kind of learn a little bit more about the head broker, speak to some of the brokers there, but I wouldn't spend too much time because the goal right now would be kind of I'm getting my foot off the ground, feet off the ground. Training would be another aspect you're looking at. There's a number of variables, and I think if they're thinking about the first step, which is how they appear when you look at them, how their online presence is, what their branding is, from both a realtor and a client perspective, then I know that they're thinking of the rest of the steps, which is how do we train new realtors? How do we have everything refined in terms of the accounting, the internal processes or support we provide to realtors? So that would be the first part of the process. And if that broker turns out to be kind of the what I anticipated, I would kind of observe, see how that broker is operating his or her business, learn from that. And then the next step would be branding. Next step would be branding under my own name, not under my own name, my own company. Thinking of a kind of a startup-y name, a digital approach was what I would do, what I would take. I think I would be a hybrid digital approach. So what you mentioned, Scotia and Tangerine, only because you need to do that. Interestingly, because you were praising the Tangerine business model because you're a millennial. But if you speak to any of those old people
Yeah,
you see there on Monday, they
yeah,
would say they hate Tangerine. What is this? I'm confused. I'm lost. And you lose all those old people. They might cost a little more, but that's still money on the table, right?
yeah.
So I would kind of have the hybrid or the dual business models,
It's
iron that out.
almost like the dual business model. They're forced into that position because they don't want to isolate their existing customer base. They still need to look into the future. So I think with realtors, I mean, if you're starting off, my thing is exactly, I think, on par with what you just said, where it's like if their website, if their branding, I think online is on point, then they are thinking about the rest of the stuff. It's like that first impression, right? If they haven't thought of that first impression, I'm not sure what else they're thinking about, right? And so that first impression matters, but then after that, it's like you also have to look at your niche, right? Like you can't be everything to everyone. So what's your focus, right? Are you going to be focusing on condos? Are you going to be focusing on houses? And I know in the beginning, beggars can't be choosers, but you'd always want to have like a few things, right? Like for example, when we started out years ago, we weren't doing everything under the sun. We were looking at, okay, there's a few things that we need to kind of capture business in, and then we can move into other areas. It doesn't matter if we know those areas as well, right? And we might be even more passionate in other areas. We're looking at like what's the path of like least resistance for us to have a long-term approach in the business. So I definitely think that that's one of the things. But how would you then? What's your first marketing and kind of sales focus? Like, what would you do with that?
How would I first push marketing as
Yeah.
a
So
realtor?
let's say you've got you figured out you found out that brokerage that you wanted that was amazing, and you're like, well, these guys are on point. Whether the dude's using his last name or full name or has another name, whatever it is, it's fine. But let's say you're looking for somebody who allows you or gives you the latitude to develop your own brand. So now you've got that, right? And you've got this nice website, looks real good, you know. Everybody's kind of like, at least the people you created it, showed it to friends and family, colleagues. Everybody's like, oh, it's nice. So now what? What's your first kind of way to get a sale in?
I'd go for a digital marketing push, fastest, broadest way. Um, Create a marketing funnel. I think my focus initially would be outsourcing. because in the beginning, I mean, I guess it depends on how much startup capital I have. If I'm coming into this business with any cash, or I'm coming in it broke. Uh, yeah, I think I'd go for a digital marketing push, build some marketing funnels. I'm not sure if there's. Are you looking for something related to PRECs generally, or what's is there a
What?
perspective of the question you want me to address, or is it just open to
I'm just
whatever?
asking like what your thing
Okay.
is. I don't. I said
Oh,
forget P-Rex.
I would register my PREC is my next step. But after that, no, after that, I'm kidding. After that, I would not register my PREC. By the way, then I would register my PREC after I hit about 50,000 in income at least, because the costs associated with me setting it up and running it would be too high for me at zero revenue, because then I'm going more in debt without anything coming in, right?
Yeah, I think
So
that
I
money
would
could probably be better spent like advertising.
on digital, yeah. So I would definitely not buy bus shelter ads. That's one thing I would not do,
Why?
unless I'm
Why?
really
Well, come on,
big.
man. Like everybody who drives by that bus shelter is
They
gonna see
hire
who
you right
you are.
away.
Yeah, but they're gonna know who you are.
And but not to say I don't think they have no value. I just think they only have value when you're so big that you're everywhere, and then they are one of 100 different impressions that are being seen that day,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. There's definitely a
But
strategy. I feel like there's some
yeah,
people who have their faces on garbage cans and with that
without
phone
yeah,
number, and you should be tapping into social media first. I should see you there first before you see you on the garbage can.
and they're spending like half their marketing budget
Yeah.
allocated, or even 70, 80, 100% on that one bench, right? Or two
Yeah.
benches, whatever it is. And they think, oh, it's two benches, so many people passing by, but not many of those people, or I would be surprised if there any leads come from it, but who
Yeah,
knows?
me too. But the thing
Um,
is it's like those things are more impressions, and I think a lot of first timers or beginners don't understand that. It's like when you have, I think before when there wasn't social media, before by that I mean like 10, 15 years ago, right? Whenever you saw any kind of information, it was like amazing. So one of the ways to get into your face was TV ad, newspaper ad, one of these things. But now social media is so much easier. And it's like now though that ad, the TV ads and the newspaper ads and the garbage cans and the bus shelters are all relegated to you've already have like a ad on YouTube or social media of some kind, and then you're re-hitting those guys in a separate medium. So once you've hit them on social media, you could say that that same person then goes somewhere else, and they try to. I mean, for me, for example, if I'm looking at like YouTube videos when I get up in the morning, whatever your morning routine is, and then I get out and I'm driving to the office, and all of a sudden I see somebody's ad, it reinforces what I just saw. But if I see it without any kind of prior introduction to the person, it does nothing for me. I think
yeah,
that's
and
what
then,
people
but
kind
I
of don't
think,
understand.
but the reinforcing only matters if you saw it enough times for you to remember it, right? If you see one digital marketing ad once you saw it,
Yeah.
maybe twice, and that was it, because the person ran a campaign for a week and they stopped, and then they also have some bench somewhere in the city, right? So those two things happening together are unlikely. Even if they do, the impact would be minimal, if any. I think that it's important to kind of really understand how much of an opportunity digital marketing is, and
Yeah.
how much of a secondary strategy external billboard advertising is, because I think
It's complementary, the
it's
strategy.
complementary but secondary is what I'm trying to
Yeah.
say. So I think if you have enough, even if it's geographically, even if you're looking at just a small, like maybe you have a set area that you're targeting, and
Yeah.
that area is where they're maybe 30 kilometers, right, squared. That's where your digital marketing is targeted. And then you have some bench ads and things like that there. But you have enough digital marketing targeted there that people are constantly seeing your brand, they're seeing your offer, they have good ads, and you're looking at ads that are focused on converting, and then they see the in-person ad, then it makes a difference. But generally speaking, it's I don't think people understand the opportunity that still exists today in digital marketing, because it's still in early stages. Because you have people that are selling commodities and making millions of dollars through digital marketing, right? That represents an opportunity, because they're saying that the biggest opportunity there is a person that's able to figure out that digital marketing funnel, right, and sell a commodity.
But I think with digital marketing, the complexity is higher. So you need to figure out like how do you like target people, what kind of ads you put up first, what do you follow up with them with, and then like how do you create like a call to action. Whereas I think it's relatively easy to put your face on a billboard and put your phone number and have whatever slogan you want, you know. And I think
And the word,
yeah.
here, go ahead. I keep go on, go on.
No, I was just saying that was it. It's just relatively easy to put your name on a billboard. Whereas when you have social media advertising, in order for it to be effective, you're really looking at not just one ad, but you're looking at 3, 4, 5 ads and how they're coming together. And it's not even just that. On top of that, like with social media, if you want to go on YouTube, yeah, there's tons of ways now to make videos. I mean, you could easily make a video on your phone, but not everybody is comfortable in front of the camera, not everybody for that long and for that many sequences, and so a lot of the hard work is done behind the scenes, but when it's done right, what you see or what the customers see, it's so much better, and that's why it's easier to get everything together. Whereas with like a bus ad, you're just putting your face on something and saying, hey, listen, if I put this on enough buses, I'm good.
And
Like people can
often
remember me.
the bus ads aren't even that great. It's not like much effort is put into those bus ads. Like you could have a nicely branded ad that is really focused on how you're doing that conversion, but I guess it's the state of the industry right now where it's more kind of information based. This is what I do. This is my commission. This is what
Yeah.
maybe there's a nice catchphrase here, right? I'm a better realtor or some pun. I can't even think of one right now, but yeah.
I mean, I feel like if that's your only way of advertising, you're not a big risk taker. So you're not going to go out on a limb, right? So you're going to be keeping it safe. So it is keeping it to your name, phone number, and maybe a tagline or two, and definitely putting your face on that thing. So it's not going to be taking a chance and confusing people, maybe creating a little controversy to get people to inquire.
The worst thing I think that can happen is you do that, you get a few billboard ads, or not billboard, you maybe get a few bus ads,
Yeah,
and then you start getting some leads coming in. Maybe you get some conversions. You go from maybe like you're earning 50, 60, you go to 100, and now you think that strategy worked and it's worthwhile, and you're focusing your energy there. But in reality, that's those same funds, that same energy,
yeah,
the same amount of leads
yeah,
might have converted 10 times the amount through digital, right? So that's I think that's something to be cognizant of always. It's something that's working,
yeah.
but it's sidetracking you from where you should be focusing your energy.
What about the flyers that people put out on houses? There's
Same
still a
thing.
lot of that, man. There's
Yeah,
so much of
all
that.
the time.
There's a lot of
All the time.
canvassing. I think like I would want to see that after I see something on YouTube. And you could do it very local. Like you could easily have a local ad that's just this neighborhood, but it never happens. It's always like I get like these guys saying I sold this in your neighborhood, but there's never that. It's not relationship building anymore. I think before it was. I think with like our dad's time, you know, like our dad, like we'll sit there and he'll look at these things and he'll read them, and it's like, oh my god, it's an experience. But even with him now, he's like googling stuff nonstop. He's on his iPad. He's more of a teenager than anything else. So he's figuring things out online, and he wants to see that to develop that trust. This is what people,
Cra-
yeah, like they're creating that trust. You have to have video content because people want to see you. They want to know who you are. They want to know what you're about. How do you speak? You know, like they want to create a connection. And I think that's the biggest thing. And I think that's the biggest thing that right now a lot of realtors are missing out on. The more content you put out there, the easier it is for potential clients to connect with you. Because this is an emotional decision. This is an emotional decision by far, especially on the purchase side. Purchase side, I mean, it's like, at least psychologically, I feel like people do not have a what is it? I totally lost my train of thought. Psychologically, they don't have that connection of paying for the services, right? Because the commission's coming on the sell side. So on the buy side, it is more like I need to find the perfect house. So they need to know that they're in good hands when they're trying to find that perfect house. So you need that emotional kind of connection. unfortunately, on the sell side, what I've seen is people are just like looking at like, all right, who's going to give me the lowest commission? A lot of times that's the case. When like if they were smart about it, they would definitely look at like, okay, if I get a realtor and I pay him like 2.5%, whatever that going rate is, but they can get me an offer that's 5%, 10% higher than anybody else. That person just paid his own commission and some, you know. So, but
Yeah.
I would blame more the realtors because they're not getting that message across. I hear a lot of frustration, like hms and ha's, like, oh my God, why? Like, do they always want a sale, right? Like, why do they want discounts? But then, as a realtor, what are you doing to show them that this is how much the value of a realtor services are? Right? Like if you
Yeah.
take me on, I can get you 10% more. So now, do you really want to argue with me for that extra 0.5 or 1%? Right? Because it's really driving that home.
I think it's an uphill battle though for realtors too. It's a difficult position to be in because the seller you said are coming into that situation thinking this is just an expense. They have no value for me. The market is so hot, the house will just sell anyways.
Yeah.
And what are you going to do for me? When in reality, the right realtor will do a huge amount, just like you said, increase the selling price by 10, 15%, whatever it is, and cover their costs and more. But the question is, how do you become an effective communicator, and so much so that you're able to convince someone that no, you're not just like all the other realtors who also made that one line statement that I will sell it for more, and that was it, right? You
Yeah.
were actually more persuasive. You were able to kind of convince them of the truth of that statement beyond just it being a standalone sentence.
Yeah. And it's not even just that. I feel like there definitely the people are like, yo, they'll sell itself, but like I don't think people really understand how intense it can get once they're kind of in the middle of it, right? Like, do you want to take on potentially a higher offer, right, that is firm, versus a lower offer that has a financing condition, right? And I think for a lot of like sellers, they may be like, always, let's go for the higher offer. That's not the smartest thing. That high offer, person throwing in a higher offer, I mean, just because they're throwing a higher firm offer does not mean they've got the money, right? They like, what if they're just ignorant or they're irresponsible or whatever you want to say, brash, and they throw it in, and then later on they can't buy your house? Are you gonna now divert resources to go and sue them, right? And like, do they have any assets for you to be able to sue? Do you want to go through that time? Are you going to be forking over those legal fees to be able to go sue them? Like, there's a lot of stuff involved. It's not as easy as, well, if they don't buy the house, then whatever. Whereas if you give them the time for a financing condition to make sure that they have financing, then you know that, okay, and throw it in there that like, yo, once the financing condition is done, you want to see the commitment letter so that you're not kind of out on a limb. You're protected. Those things are things that really protect you, because now you know that this individual has the funds, right? And they're going to show you the commitment in 5 days, and if not, you're putting the house on the market again, right? As opposed to this person's promised to buy the house at an amazing price 2 months down the line. 2 months down the line, when they actually go buy the house, they don't have the money. But now, not only can they not buy the money, we're not in a heated market, or we're not in the market where you're like in the middle of December where it's hard to sell a house, at least in Canada, right, during the summer or during the winter. So like, all of that has a huge effect on everything. So those are the things that like a lot of people don't understand. Like, if somebody were to come to you and say, listen, I've got an offer, you got to accept this in 3 hours. Do you have the ability to kind of, the resources, the intellect, right, to have somebody with you who's going to be able to look at that offer and give you the correct advice? So there's a lot of things I feel like sellers really are not given the full extent of the help and the assistance that they need from realtors. That's the biggest issue. And you know what, I would blame a lot of realtors, and I know our firm works with a lot of realtors, but I would still say, and I say this only because I want their business to be better. It's like you should have a script down saying, hey, this is why you need a really good realtor to sell your house. Okay, it's about negotiating prices. It's about getting higher prices, being able to set up the situation or the condition around your house to get the best price. It's about making sure that the offers that we're looking at are right. It's about making sure that, because it's not apples to apples. No offer is going to be apples to apples. Just by the mere fact that the buyers are different, there's a different set of risks that are coming in. Some people do not have the money. They'll go in firm hoping that there's going to be a bank or a broker who's going to get them the money. So those are all things that people need to consider. But I feel like they're not getting that education. It's the same thing with, our services. A lot of people come in and they think that, oh my God, lawyers aren't doing anything. Lawyers are doing your title search, right? And you're negotiating. When people negotiate for like $50, $100, I'm thinking, I'm doing your title search, right? And obviously I have ethical obligations to perform it to the best of my abilities. But at the same time, right, do you want a market that is suppressing the amount of time lawyers can look into doing your title search and seeing what's on there? You don't. It's in your interest to let them kind of give them their space and let them do the best they can. On all of these services, it's much like doctors. You're not going to go to the cheapest doctor, right? People actually try to search for what's the most expensive doctor I can get. But with a lot of these other resources, I feel like because it's not health, it is directly related to health. If you buy a good house or a bad house, it's directly related to your health. If you do not put in a good offer with a good realtor that has a proper conditions and you buy a house with mold in it, that's going to affect your health directly. But people don't see that. It doesn't connect right away.
Your financial health as well. If the lawyer doesn't get the opportunity to properly search title, review, make sure that anything is removed that shouldn't be on title, that you receive clear title. At the end of the day, that's protecting your financial health and the investment that you're making. So it is. I agree with you. It is very important to be educating customers, and as you mentioned as well, for realtors, I think the biggest takeaway there is when it comes to digital marketing, a good focus is how do you create videos and build that trust on what the service is and why it has value, right? And maybe not directly in a commercial sense too. You just have something where you're having a discussion, you're going through a list of different things, the most important services that a realtor brings to a sale, right? Or the most important things that a realtor provides, or what you do or how you negotiate, tips on negotiating, whatever it is. There's a million ideas that you can come up with, but consumers are not well educated on the benefits of using a realtor, and at the end of the day, it's harming consumers because they need to be using a realtor when it comes to selling a house.
Yeah. No, you know what? Like when you say financial health, your house, for most Canadians, is their biggest asset. The biggest wealth accumulator is their house, and so it's their wealth, their finances, right? And a financial health equals physical health. It also equals a healthy relationship. 50% of relationships end because of financial difficulties. So a lot of this is setting it up, and it's a big purchase. It's not a small purchase. So instead of cutting corners, you want to find the place. That helps you bring all of that together.
Yeah. So Bill-145.
Yeah. Bill-145, man.
So what else? What else do we want to talk about Bill-145? No, we left the topic. I wanted to see if there's any.
I think it's a great change, and I think the realtors should be kind of lining up to get their PRECs in, making sure their brokerage is a part of it, and definitely looking into this as not as a expense, but as a step towards the future of the industry, and they should be thinking more along the lines of how are you prepared for this industry, right? And are you working with the right people to ensure that you're working, you're looking into the future. I know with all the realtors that we work with, we're constantly kind of telling them how we feel the industry is going, just so they have our opinion. And they could do with it what they want, but it's there. And that's one of the impetuses of this podcast too. It's to let like kind of people know what our mindset is, what our perspective is, and just to analyze the industry and see where it's going.
And there's a lot of change coming, I think.
Yeah.
The next few years are going to be big for real estate. I don't think the landscape is going to be the same as it is today. Next year or in 3 years or in 5 years, I think there's going to be a significant change in the pace of the change itself too. So
I think it's
to always keep an eye on.
Yeah, it's gonna pick up faster and faster and faster, because you'll see how, as like the legislation changes, as like realtors are kind of governing themselves, the environment's gonna completely change, and there's gonna be a new set of winners and losers, and there's gonna be people who are gonna take advantage of it, some people who are not, right? Some people, and it's not even just taking advantage of it on your own. Here's my thought process. Just as realtors need to educate their clients because they need to work with them, we're in the same way working with realtors, right? So I would like to say, want to educate the realtors we're working with as to what the legal ramifications of this is, and how to best set yourself up for long-term success.
And it's not just the PRECs. Although PRECs are a big portion of Bill-145, I think I want to keep driving home that it's not just PRECs, because there's so many things that changed with the new law that are important for realtors to know, that impacts the future of the industry and a lot of your practices as well, and the decisions you'll be making in the next year or so as well.
Any last words?
No, that's it.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. See you next time.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. Take care.
All right.